Hello, everyone. Welcome to this conversation with Bhavit Seth, co-founder, COO of Dream11, on his behind-the-scenes journey in creating a great company. Bhavit, thank you for joining today.
Yes, thanks, Vani, for having me here.
Yeah. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the role of a co-founder. What do you look for when you start a company with another co-founder?
Vani, I think you hit the nail on the head. Co-founder relationship is absolutely critical, right? When you want to build a company, when you want to scale up a company. For Harsh and me, what worked very well, although both of us have very different personalities, is that we have the same vision and we have the same interest in technology, gaming, and sports. And we want to make sure that our passion for fantasy sports was translated into something which was much larger, right?
But even when you know each other so well, right? How do you go about dividing roles and responsibilities, and how does that evolve over time?
So I think the most straightforward way for any co-founders to divide responsibility is if both of them have different interests, right? But as you said, if both have the same interest, then it becomes a more challenging task. But at the end of the day, there has to be that understanding on how the roles and responsibilities have to be divided. We have the understanding that I can go and I will tell the team and they will do what needs to be done, um, and that trust has to be there, right, between the co-founders, that this guy knows what he's doing, whether it be something that he's handling or something that I'm handling. But if he knows something, if he sees something, he'll go and walk up to the team and talk to the team about it. Yeah.
Now, the next challenge is building the rest of the people around you, because now you both are like one unit, right?
Right.
And building the next level management team, you both have such a synchronicity. How do you bring others into your fold such that they feel included then?
Yeah, so one of the things that has helped us build a good leadership team is the very fact that we accepted the fact that we don't know everything, right? So our simple formula was to hire people smarter than us and learn from them. And a lot of people, again, going back to the point on ego, a lot of people believe that I know everything, and the team that I hire should listen to me. They should run the way I want everything to run. I believe that's not the right way of running a company. You hire smart people, and then you get out of their way. You let them run the show, and you only step in when there's something that needs to be or done, or when you see there's something that's going wrong. One of the most important thing that we've learned over the years and we've implemented is to have a certain culture of the organization. So for everyone who's starting up a company, it's very important to define a culture for your organization. And once you define the culture, align everyone to that culture and ensure that people actually follow that culture, because culture is the only thing that scales, right? uh, you know we we've gone from having two of us to 10 people to 50 people to 150 and now 400. And one thing we've realized is that systems, processes, all of that will break. You'll have to keep on reinventing all your systems, processes, but culture will always scale.
So, how do you define culture
So
for Dream11?
yes, so for Dream11, what we've done is, and our culture has evolved over time, right? When we started off, we had a different culture. Then we had an intermediate culture where we had actually put in 11 different pillars of our culture. And soon we realized that most of the people couldn't even recite those 11 pillars, and we were like, that doesn't work, right? So we need to have a culture which is simple enough for people to be able to align to it, but at the same time deep enough so that it covers all the angles that we want to cover.
Are there some principles to achieve this kind of frictionless scaling? Because product market fit is next problem that companies run into after having the co-founders in place. But post product market fit, most companies fail to achieve true growth and true scaling. And you have done that beautifully without any errors really, or at least no catastrophic errors. So how?
Yeah, I would say frictionless scaling is actually a myth, right? While scaling, you are going to have friction. It's about
Yeah,
how you manage that friction and how efficiently you manage the friction.
yeah,
That will define how well you are able to scale, right? The other one is obviously everyone within the organization has to be aligned to the vision, so that they are able to help grow the company and scale the company with the same vision that the founders also have. The third thing that I already spoke about would be on culture, right? How do you ensure that everyone within the organization is aligned to the culture, how they fit with the culture, because that's the only thing that scales at the end of the day. Um, One of the most important things I think, which a lot of companies in India especially fail at, is that they overhire in the starting. So I would say that's very important. As you scale up, just because you have problems, you don't throw people at problems, right? You try to make sure that you solve problems, or any of the roadblocks that you have via technology, if you're a tech company, or for every different industry there are ways to solve problem without throwing people at problem. Start identifying systems and processes which are going to break after you reach a certain point in time. So I'll give you an example for Dream 11, right? When we reached 50 people, we realized that the systems processes, although there were very few of them at that time, whatever we had set in place was not going to scale when we hit 150. So at that time we started preparing for hitting the 150 people. And then when we hit 150, we realized that the same things are not going to scale when we reach 400 people. So now we started preparing for how do you improve your systems and processes so that when you have 400 people, they at work. One of the other things that we advocate very strongly internally is to fail fast and learn fast, right? So we've created an environment where failure is not looked down upon. It's looked as an opportunity to learn. And as long as you learn from that failure, you improve upon what you failed at, great. But obviously no one will tolerate if you keep on failing at the same thing again and again and again, right? um, and I would say one of the most important final things is execution. So efficient execution is the key, right, to grow any organization.
of course, as important as the team and the people are to the
Right.
success of a company,
Right.
there is one other even more important stakeholder called customer,
Yeah.
right? And exceed customer expectation is easier said than done, but
Right.
that's exactly what you have achieved. What does it take to truly deliver on this exceed customer expectation song?
I think I wouldn't say that we've achieved it, because it's something that you have to achieve every day, right? You can't sit back on your laurels and say that, okay, now we have achieved that exceed customer expectation. It's something that we have to work on every day. And it's very volatile. There are days when things go wrong and you would have a lot of customer complaints around certain things. Uh, I would say the thought process should be very simple, and it's part of our philosophy and our culture as well. User first. Whenever we think of anything, whether it be from a product perspective, from a policies perspective, from a even like for example your terms and conditions privacy policy, always think of the user when you are building anything within the product. And I think that's what's helped us align the organization to that motto of being user first. But apart from that, it's very important to listen to the user, right? Now, there are only a very few users that actually write to you. Industry reports say that 4% of Grief customers actually write to you. So how do you get some kind of an insight from what the user is thinking? And what we've done, and I would say at least have been decently successful at, is build connects with users. So for example, I would also have 50 of our top users on WhatsApp, and they can reach out to me directly. In the same way, there would be multiple people within the organization where different sets of customers have access to them, and they can reach out. And this is not for a query resolution mechanism, because we already have that. This is more from a feedback mechanism. And it's important for us to understand what the users want, and at the same time also sometimes users don't know what they want, right? So it's a balance between, you know, understanding what the users want, taking their feedback, which is great, and then the second is also looking at data, understanding what the user behavior patterns are, and then build some products which users don't know they want, but eventually will realize that they needed those products.
How do you build a data-driven organization?
As you said, there's a lot of data available, and sometimes you know, when you have that much data, it's very easy to get lost with the data as well. And there's one famous saying that says that if you torture the data enough, it'll confess to anything, right? So it's important for you know, for you to be true to yourself. Make sure that you're looking at the data the right way. And you know, some of the most important metrics that we look at are more on a unit economic level rather than a overall level, because that's what actually gives us an insight into the health of the business, right? So you know, in data metrics like CAC, ARPU, payback for you know, marketing dollars, and one of the most important things that we look at is on our retention cohorts, right? Uh, Especially for our business, it's extremely important for us to build a sticky product and make sure that users keep on coming back onto our platform. So you know, it's important, at least for any business, it would be important to measure your business health through unit economics.
What is a common characteristic, if any, that you find across all top performers that you have come across?
Yes, I would say actually, apart from just the skill, um, the more important side of it is that the people, at least that have been high performers for us, have been fully aligned to our vision. They've been passionate about building the product. A lot of people that we've hired have been, you know, passionate about sports, passionate about technology. Um, some of them have been passionate about building products at scale for a larger audience across the country. Um, and a lot of them, I would say all of them actually have that thought process of being user centric. And just in general, I would say these people have been very good culture fits for us. And that's what's helped, because you know, once that alignment happens on the skill side of it, it's something that can be grown, can be taught, can be you know, mentored. And that's what we've seen, at least for our organization.
What would be your advice or things that you suggest young entrepreneurs consider as they start on their journey as you did a few years ago?
I would say one of the most important things would be persistence or perseverance, right? And I can talk from our own experience, that you know, before Vani, you had the conviction to fund us. We had actually reached out to 150 other VCs and PE firms, and all of them had told us no, right? But we had the persistence, perseverance to actually go, because we realized that we had a product that had potential. But apart from that, there have been multiple things, right? Especially for us, because of the our business model, we've had to have a lot of discussions, even with someone like a Facebook, to allow us to advertise on the platform. And it's taken us probably 3 years of knocking at their door almost every week before they said, okay, you know, now let's partner together. Similarly with Google, it's taken us 6 years, but you know, we've had that persistence that we'll week in and week out check in with them. You know, we'll give them updates. We'll make sure that they know we are there and they're thinking about us. We are top of mind for them, right? So there's a lot to be, at least for us, through this journey we've learned, and for young entrepreneurs also to learn, is that don't give up easily. Make sure that you are persistent. Make sure that you are top of mind of people that you really want to work with. Eventually, you know, you will be able to break open that door.
I wish you all the success and all the best, and you know, hope to continue to have a part to play in that journey. But thanks for joining.
Thanks, Vani. We always appreciate all your advice that you've given us over the years.